This is breaking news from the Las Vegas Review-Journal, sponsored by Michael Gaughan's South Point Hotel, Casino, and Spa.
Please stand and kindly silence your phones. For the national anthem, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, which I will lead. Singing the national anthem today is a student from the Las Vegas Academy of the Arts, Patricia Manata.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please be seated. Thank you, Patricia. That was wonderful. Oh, sorry. Pledge of Allegiance. My apologies. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. All right. This morning, we will hear from President of the CCSD Board of School Trustees, Linda Cavazos, as well as Achieve 3000 Executive Officer, Stuart Udell, and Achieve 3000's Chief Academic Officer, Kevin Baird. Today's program will conclude with a keynote presentation by the Superintendent of the Clark County School District, Dr. Jesus F. Jara. Please join me in welcoming School Board President Linda Cavazos.
Good morning, everyone. Bienvenidos a todos. I'm so glad to see everybody here with us today. My name is Linda Cavazos. I'm the president of the CCSD Board of Trustees, and I thank all of you here today as we take another huge leap into a brand new school year next Monday, facing questions, challenges, and situations never before encountered. Behind the scenes, we have had administrators, teachers, support staff, and the superintendent and his staff working long hours to make this happen. This year, we will have even more amazing technology to help our students and educators maximize student achievement and to find their unique spots in their educational journeys that fit in with their goals and dreams. So this morning, as I look out over all the faces of our supporters, our community partners, our staff, it's just amazing that we all come together for this back-to-school kickoff after the kind of times that we've just been through recently. So I want you to think for just a moment briefly, to think about the thousands of stories that are the heartbeat of our district. Our students' achievements, their victories, their amazing diversity, and also in recognition of the rough roads that some have had to travel during the past 18 months. And secondly, please think of all the people standing tall for those kids, on whose shoulders they stand. Their parents, their extended family, their educators, and yes, you all, their community. So we in the district also need that community and partnership to make success available to every single student. So before I go into the closing here, part of that community and part of my tribe are our trustees that are here today. I want to recognize Trustee Evelyn Garcia Morales, if you would please stand. She represents District C. We also have Trustee Lisa Guzman representing District A. Our other trustees send their regrets that they could not be here today, but they are here with us in spirit. So I want to thank you again. Thank you to the amazing WIN, and to thank you all for being here today to launch what we know is going to be a successful, achievement-oriented school year for the children of the Clark County School District. Again, thank you so much, and I again am looking forward to this next school year, and I hope you will join me in welcoming all our children and staff next Monday on August 9th. Thank you so much.
It is my honor to introduce the Chief Executive Officer of Achieve 3000, Stuart Udell. Achieve 3000 delivers a comprehensive learning platform that accelerates learning in literacy, math, science, and social studies. Using personalized and differentiated solutions, Achieve 3000 enables educators to help all students achieve growth. Put your hands together for Stuart Udell.
Thank you. I'm really thrilled to have the opportunity to be here. I'm thrilled to be right here because I get to take my mask off for a little bit. But I want to start by thanking Superintendent Jara, Dr. Larson Mitchell, President Cavazos, and the rest of the board for the opportunity to really work with you all. And the way we think about our role in your district is just to help a little bit and play a little bit of support in the great success that you have throughout the year. I also want to thank you all for a little bit for what you do every day. I used to have my first boss actually out of college said to me, I'm going to give you a piece of advice. If anyone ever asks you, how's work? Just say it's interesting, and you're always covered. You're always telling the truth. 2020, as we all know, was an incredibly interesting year, one that we hope to never have something that interesting again. But I really personally appreciate the leadership that everyone in this room showed, and frankly, the heroism, because that's what it was, to get through and to really reinvent school in the face of an enormous amount of adversity. So thank you for what you've done along the way there. I think, though, that in spite of the trifecta of challenges we had with the pandemic, some economic crisis along the way, and some civil unrest along the way, it really provides us with an inflection point as educators to think about where we go. I've had the great fortune over the last year to serve as a National Commissioner for AASA on the Learning 2025 National Commission on Student-Centered, Equity-Focused Education. And my goal, along with a number of leading superintendents and a couple other colleagues from the ed tech community, is to help figure out how we take the best of what we've been doing for 150 years, the best of what we learned over the last year, as hard as it was, so that moving forward we have a 1 + 1 = 3 or more solution in terms of making a difference in the lives of students that we serve. And if you've not had a chance, please do go to the AASA site and download that report, as we're really trying to focus on a redesign plan to take us through 2025, and there's some very good thinking behind it. Now, I want to just take 2 or 3 minutes to talk about Achieve 3000, but not from a product perspective. And I want to start by saying, I grew up with Achieve 3000. My kids used it and did very well with it and went off to college and graduate school. And in a past life, when I ran alternative schools, about 50 or 60 of my schools used it. So like you, I was an Achieve 3000 user. But what I really want to share today is not so much about our programs, but the thinking behind them from a pedagogical and a philosophical perspective, because that I think is what's most important. 25 years ago, your next speaker, Kevin Baird, and I sat in a room, and we tried to create a roadmap in the early days of educational technology. What are we trying to build, and what's the philosophy that we put behind it? And we came up with 5 educational principles or tenets. Now, none of them are rocket science, but I do think you can relate to all of them. The first is that education is a basic human right. So we think a lot about equity and access in terms of the way we build our products and the supports and scaffolds that they have for all kids. But also in terms of the content that we deliver, because we know the research says that if the kids can relate to the content, they will perform. So last year, for the 400 or 500 new articles that we produced, 17% were very specifically responsive to the African American student and community, 16% to the Hispanic community, 14% to Asian and Pacific Islanders, 12% to Native Americans, and 10% to LGBTQ kids. So that is part of our commitment, that we have diverse content in all of our platforms as we deliver it. The second principle and tenet we think a lot about every day is that literacy is a gateway skill. Again, not rocket science, we know that. But we also know that on the 2019 NAEP nationwide, only 35% of 4th and 8th graders nationwide were proficient in reading. And when they were asked the question, when students were asked the question in a parallel survey, can you understand content that you're given in the classroom? Only 36% said they definitely can understand most of the content they ingest. So while we know it's a skill, we have a long way to go, certainly, and we have to continue. And of course, it's not something that we just think about as part of our reading or English language arts instruction. It's important across all subjects as well. The third thing we think a lot about is that everything we do must be research-based and efficacy proven. So on the front end, from a pedagogical perspective, we work extensively with folks like Dr. Goldie Muhammad, Dr. Anthony Muhammad, our own Kevin Baird, Dr. Sean Joseph from Howard University, who's here today, to inform the way we build our content and make sure that what we're building is good for kids. What we never want to do is experiment on your kids. We have to know that it works before we put out a new feature or functionality or even a new piece of content. And then on the back end, we make sure that it's highly effective. We're measuring success in randomized experimental design studies and other quasi-experimental studies. The fourth and fifth tenets I'm going to talk about together. The fourth is technology can be a great democratizer and enabler. That doesn't mean it always is. It doesn't always work. But the fifth tenet, the teacher is the key. We have great respect for the teaching profession, and to me, it's not about respect. It's about admiring some of the most important heroes in our community. But it's when you take technology and the teacher and put it together, we can allow even greater things to happen. So again, we like to play just a small role in your success. And the analogy I always think about when I think about the combination of technology and instruction is it's like driving over a bridge. If there were no guardrails on a bridge, most of us as sane human beings and professionals would drive 25 miles an hour right down the middle lane because you don't want to fall into the ravine or the ocean below. But with just a little 2.5-foot guardrail, we feel empowered and enabled to accelerate and drive 60 miles an hour in the right lane. That's what we're trying to do when we provide technology to your teachers to just help them accelerate a little bit, to be a little more efficient, and to be a little more effective. So thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit. I want to introduce our next speaker, who's a great friend of mine. We go back 25 plus years, and colleague. Kevin Baird is the Chief Academic Officer of Achieve 3000. He also is the founder and still chairman of the Center for College and Career Readiness. You may have read his book, Whole, which was released last year, and he's already working on his next book, Trust Me. And he is just a tremendous speaker, thought leader in our space, and we were very fortunate to work with him every day. Thank you for your time, and Kevin, it's a pleasure to be able to introduce you.
It is my distinct pleasure to be here, Dr. Jara. Thank you for inviting me. We have about 25 minutes to have a conversation. So the hardest part of the next 25 minutes is that you have to decide who you're going to have a conversation with. So look to your left, look to your right, and decide who you're going to chat with across your socially distanced space, all right? And by the way, I gotta say, the wind did it up, right? I mean, wow, what a way to launch the year. I want to talk with you about what happens when we dream together with our teams. How we come out of the fire that we've just been in to lead our teams to the idea of post-traumatic growth. Something better, to reimagine what school is and will be in Clark County. So, in this book that I co-authored called Whole, What Teachers Need to Help Students Thrive, the first sentence says, education is a habitat for heroes. And I believe that. And in our journey today, our story, you are the hero. And my job is to be short, wrinkly, and crinkly, and green. I'm just a guide for the conversation. A really interesting idea for you, I think, is what kind of guides do you want to invite into the next year on your hero's journey? I know that Dr. Jara will be talking about some of those guides. I would note that one of mine is Dr. Sean Joseph here, Howard University. We all have folks who help us to ask the right questions. So, by the way, this conversation actually exists as about a 90-minute piece of conversation for leaders. The district has the entire set of questions, and if you wanted to bring this whole thing into your schools, you're welcome to do that. So, to start off, just a reflection question, all right? By the way, great news. We all have a note-taking device, right? How have you changed during the past year? And how has your team changed during the past year? Not for discussion, just for thought. Take a minute and consider your own journey and the journey of your team. How have you changed? What's happened to you emotionally? Maybe you yourself have had some trauma. Certainly some of our kids have, our families. How have we changed? Because the first idea that I want to introduce to you is the idea that disasters have dividends. In the immortal words of Oscar Wilde, behind every exquisite thing that has ever existed, there was something tragic. Now, we know this from our experience. After 9/11, we had increased spirituality and social cohesion in the United States. Our country actually became stronger. After the mass shooting at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, at the time the largest mass shooting in the United States, the entire fabric of the community changed. People came together. We lived this, and we've been living it now. By the way, there's also research that shows that this is true generally in humanity. This is from the Journal of Traumatic Stress. Finding social benefits after a collective trauma, perceiving societal changes and well-being following 9/11. So every disaster, including COVID, including what we've just gone through, goes through the same stages of mental health. And we are right now just at the cusp of rebuilding, of reimagining. And here's the great news. Our opportunity is we get to decide what that journey will be. This is one of my personal heroes, John Mccain. You probably know that he came back from Vietnam literally broken. And he had a vision of himself, his post-traumatic growth story of being a leader, but also someone who could reconcile, who could bring together the people who just literally nearly killed him and the United States. And that's that picture right there. He's actually taking the Vietnamese leadership to the US Capitol. So our first discussion question today, left or right, you get to choose your hardest decision. What kind of journey do you want to lead your teams through this next year? What will be your heroic journey? What new narrative do you want to create together? I release the room to you. Let's have a little discussion. What kind of vision, new vision, do you imagine? All right, that's just an appetizer. So we'll start to come back. We have a lot to think about, a lot to envision. As we consider that heroic journey, as we consider where we want to lead our teams, I want you to consider that at the heart of the team, literally the heartbeat of a team is trust. As it relates to trust building, the idea, or team building, the idea of trust is actually the knowledge amongst all the team members that the motivations, the intentions of everyone on the team are good. They don't have to hide themselves. They don't have to be cautious. They can be free. Trust is the fuel to the heroic journey, the dream, the re-envisioning. It is literally what keeps us up, and when we lose trust, it is why we fall down. But trust is not simple. So I want to give you just a little bit of insight into what is actually the science of trust, all right? So first of all, trust is three-dimensional. What do I mean by that? First of all, I have the idea of the quantity of trust. I trust them a lot. I don't trust them quite as much. I think about this as an Uber, right? When I get in an Uber, I trust them exactly as much to get me from the airport to the Wynn, right? And if it's a really beat-up Uber, I might have less trust. And if it's a black car, right, and a professional driver, I might have more trust. But just quantity, how much I trust you. There's a second dimension, which is volume, and that's trust over time. Someone who's been trustworthy. Maybe you have a childhood friend who they've been there for you, right? Stuart and I have known for each other for more than 20 years, right? He was at my wedding. Right? I trust him. When there are moments of distrust, when something happens, but you have a lot of volume, actually it's not as impactful because you know it's going to be okay. Now think about this through the eyes of kids. Think about this through the eyes of your new faculty. They don't know you. How much do they trust you? How do they know? And by the way, they don't have a lot of volume of trust very often because they're new. The kid is new to the school. They're new to the classroom. They're new to the community. The same with our faculty. The last element of trust is gravity. And that's how critical this thing is that I'm trusting you with. So for instance, when you go and you have surgery, right, you have a lot of trust, gravity with that surgeon. You probably checked them out beforehand. I hope you did. Think about students, school, their future. When something happens at school, they can see this, it can destroy their entire day, their entire week. How about faculty? We're talking about their jobs, gravity. So trust has three elements, okay? Two more things to know about trust. Number one, trusting is a decision. I chose to trust the Uber driver. I chose to trust my leader, my surgeon. As a matter of fact, my colleague, Dr. Paulzak, he is a neuroscientist. He actually works with the Department of Defense and others. He's one of the leaders in measuring what happens in the brain when we trust someone. So two things to know. Trust happens in the advanced part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain where we have insight and planning and abstract thought. And it is related with this a hormone called oxytocin, which is the love hormone, all right? It's the kind of, when you feel good because you hug someone, that's oxytocin, or when you're in love or you have a good friend. Trust is a decision. Distrust is not. Distrust is an experience. You cannot stop it. Distrust happens in the most ancient part of the brain, the amygdala. You've heard of fight or flight. I got an F. I didn't pass a quiz. I got yelled at. I got a bad review. The principal came in and gave me the stink eye while they were observing me. Whatever the trigger is, you can't stop it. And what happens is that the brain is flooded with a different hormone, cortisol, and it destroys trust. So, trust is a decision. Distrust is an experience. Now, I want you to reflect. This isn't for discussion. We have a different discussion question. I want you to reflect, what are the elements in our system that cause us to distrust? Think about that for a minute. I heard a laugh, right? So this is real. We know it. We live it. Think about kids. Why would a student distrust the school, the teacher? Why would our faculty or the people we lead distrust us? The great news is there's an antidote, all right? And these are called the sweet six motivators. These are actually scientifically proven motivators which activate the love drug, all right? Which help us to build trust. And the discussion question is going to be, which one of these do you want to use and where do you see these? So let's consider. Motivating through compassion. We're learning so that we can go help the world. We have compassion toward our students and toward our families. It activates oxytocin. Community. Community projects. There are whole schools which revolve around community, right? Service to the community. That motivates trust. Hope. Every single day in a classroom where hope is our motivator. Listen, there's nothing we're going to do here that you can't master. This is all stuff we're going to get through. Hope. And also challenge. But challenge where I know I'm going to succeed, right? If I'm challenged and I continuously fail, that destroys trust. Reasonability. If it makes sense, it builds trust. If it doesn't make sense, it doesn't build trust. Why are you giving me a 20-page packet for homework and it's due tomorrow? I don't trust you. In fact, I don't like you, right? Reasonability. And lastly, commitment. Commitment to the challenge, commitment to each other. Is our classroom a team? Are we learning together? We are going to solve this problem together. We're going to master this together. Are we committed to each other? Or are we all in our little silos, right? You got an A, you got a D, you got a C. And by the way, there are two motivators which destroy trust, and those are guilt and shame. So I want to give you a sense of how this really works. And it might surprise you, because the foundational framework for this thing called Achieve 3000, which I actually helped to build a long time ago in a land far, far away, had nothing to do with content or curriculum. It had to do with how kids feel. Giving students a daily experience of equity, the equitable chance to succeed, helping them to build trust, giving teachers a tool to help build heroic journeys with students. These motivators, these six, literally are behind everything that happens in that experience. And by the way, the research is crazy. This is from one of the largest ongoing studies of student self-confidence, self-efficacy, and trust in the world. And we do it, Achieve does it, with the University of Kansas. You see trust going up here, self-efficacy, and it's not just kids who are doing well. These are kids who are below-level readers. And you know our newcomers, or students who are using the Spanish content because they don't speak English as their first language, trust significantly goes through the roof, even higher trust factor. And this is the result. When we care less about just content, and we care more about what students experience in their heart, in their emotions, how they feel. This is Nevada data, and you can imagine Clark County is an outsized impact here. Our students who are behind, they grew 3 times last year what we expected. 3.5 times for our Black and African American kids. Our Latino and Latina kids, 5 times growth. Not because there was some magical piece of content, because they believed in themselves. They believed in you. They believed in school. So, I'd like us to think together. Let's discuss. Which of those 6 motivators do you want to see? Do you want to have your teams use as you begin your heroic journey re-envisioning Clark County schools? I release the room to you. All right. It's a good start to the conversation. I have one more idea to leave you with today and one more discussion question. Let's face it, things happen. Distrust happens. We don't always succeed. We have a bad day. Stuart yells at me now and again. The idea that when something does happen that decreases trust, there is a minimum viable action to recover the relationship. But it's important that we always recover the relationship. I like to say, if you don't have quiz recovery, the kid is going to need credit recovery. When the child fails, they have to have the opportunity to succeed again. The same with our faculty, the same with us. This is human nature. So what is the minimum viable action for recovery, and what does that mean? Well, here's my example. This is a Challenger disaster, all right? Gravity. This was a grave infraction of our trust. It actually took several years to not only implement the recommendations of the Rogers Commission, but to regain trust and go up again. And by the way, you can reach a level of complete distrust where you cannot regain trust. And that's what happened in the shuttle program when the second shuttle broke up, right, as it was coming into the atmosphere. So trust is a fragile thing. And we have to think about how we recover relationships with our teammates and with our students. Trust builds teams. Distrust literally destroys our dreams. It doesn't matter what we reimagined. Recovery is how we build resilience. So when you reach a hard time, we know it's going to be okay. But think about this through the eyes of a child or a new faculty member, right? I don't have a lot of history with you. I don't know how much I should trust you for quantity. I don't have a lot of history with you for volume of trust. And how about gravity? This is my job. This is my schooling. And sometimes for the child, the adults in the school are some of the only really positive adult relationships they have. So here's my last question as we consider the heroic journey that we're embarking on, how we re-envision what our schools will be in Clark County. How will our system regain the trust of a child who experiences failure at the time of failure? To be a bit more clear about what I'm asking you, why should the child who receives a D or an F, and by the way, thank you, board, thank you, Clark County, for taking on grading reform, for providing students with greater opportunities for, yes, absolutely. The student who's bullied or labeled by their gaps and not their strengths, why should that child trust us as we envision our classrooms and schools? I release the room to you one last time. Why? Room is yours. All right, my friends. This part of our conversation must come to an end. I hope that you leave here remembering that disasters do have dividends, and our opportunity is we get to decide what our heroic journey will be. But at the core of that journey is trust. Trust is a decision. Distrust is an experience. And on the other side of that is the idea of relationship recovery. That's how we build resilience. Our question is, how do we create a constant, continuous experience of joyful growth and relationship recovery? That's what I try to do every day when I think about providing students with an experience where they actually feel equity, where they actually feel trust, and providing you with tools to create historic, heroic journeys with students. I want to leave you with Clint and Mr. Jensen as we reimagine what school might be.
I have a lot of memories from when I was a child. One that's always stuck out to me, though, was when I was about 10 years old, and I was in school, and I struggled. And I didn't struggle with English, math, or science. I struggled holding still. And I would try to listen and focus and process ideas, but I couldn't help myself. And to be honest, I would sit there, and then I would just start tapping, and the students in the class would look at me, and they'd say, "Hey, stop tapping." A lot of the time, I didn't even realize I was doing it. And then eventually even the teachers got after me, and they would yell at me, and they'd say, "Clint, you have to stop tapping." It got so bad that I got sent to the principal's office for tapping. And he said to me, "Okay, maybe when you go back to class, just try sitting on your hands." And so I did. I went back to class, and when I felt myself starting to tap, I did this. I sat on my hands. And that worked for about 5 seconds. One time I was tapping in class, and my teacher, Mr. Jensen, he looked at me and he yelled. And he said, "Clint, stay after class." And I thought to myself, this is it. I am done. Now, I've always been the type of person that believes that a single moment in time can change a person's life. And this was one of those moments for me. And I will never forget it. And so I was sitting there with Mr. Jensen and an empty classroom. And he walked past me and he sat next to his desk and he said, "Clint, come here. I want to talk to you." And as he looked me right in the eye, he said, "Now, I need you to know something. You're not in trouble. But I do have just one question that I have to ask you." And he asked, he said, "Have you ever thought about playing the drums?" And in that moment, Mr. Jensen, he leaned back and he opened the top drawer of his desk. And he reached in and he pulled out my very first pair of drumsticks. And he held them in his hands and he looked at me and he said, "Hey, Clint, you're not a problem. I think you're a drummer." I've never put those sticks down. I've toured, recorded, and played drums all over the world. My whole college education was paid for with drumsticks in my hand. Just because of a single moment in time when somebody believed in me. And he saw something in me that I didn't even see within myself. And from that moment, I learned that there's a difference between being the best in the world and being the best for the world.
Education is a habitat for heroes, and you are mine. I wish you an amazing year as you reimagine how school feels for our students in Clark County. Thank you very much.
Thank you. First, I would like to take a moment to welcome Trustee Williams and the Nevada State Superintendent Ebert. Regarding the next video you will see, the students, families, and educators and the Clark County School District faced many challenges during this past school year. Everyone in CCSD pulled together and worked with our incredible partners in the community, and together we produced amazing success stories. Here are a few highlights of the great work that we accomplished in the last year, because together we triumph.
March 1, 2021. That's the morning that I had the pleasure with the state superintendent. We met Jordan Michael Dukes at Rex Bell Elementary School. As we were waiting for the opening ceremonies, Jordan came to me so excited to be back in school and said, "Superintendent, I can't wait to tell you everything that I've learned during distance education." Remember that, Soup? And he said, "Can I recite the alphabet backwards?" As his dad was there, beaming with pride, right then I knew that all the hard work, everything that we went through to open our classrooms, to open our schools, was well worth it for Jordan and so many of our children coming back, and to the 42,000 employees. Thank you for your commitment, because together we triumph for our children. So many stories that have been highlighted in this community, but there are some stories that caught national attention because of the hard work of our teachers and our staff. So take a look at this video that highlights the work of Joel Bradley at Mac Middle School.
Knew, of course, it would be a difficult year. And I'm always recognized, I think, because I have teachers in my family, what they put in each and every day, but nobody could have picked this one. The pivot to online learning, trying to keep kids engaged, even just getting them to show up to class. Well, when Jerome Mack Middle School in Las Vegas went remote, attendance dropped to less than 50%. So 2 of Mack Middle School's teachers stepped up to make sure their kids showed up, going for that extra credit to ensure the kids could succeed.
Going to pick up 75 lunches so that we can get those out to the students. Hey, here are you.
My official title is Student Success Advocate. My essential job is to make sure that every student at the school, all 12 to 1,300 middle schoolers, get whatever they need to be successful.
This year, that has grown to a lot of home visits, clothing kids, feeding kids, putting furniture in houses. We're going to give you enough to get through, say, the weekend, and then we'll reach back out to you on Monday, okay?
100% of our students will qualify for free breakfast and lunch. We deliver between 200 and 300 meals per week to the families who either can't get to the school or are sick.
The very first house that we walked up to that caught our attention as something was wrong was this young lady that she hadn't been in school for 6 weeks. We could see that there was one single chair in those 2 rooms. The second we walked away, I said, "Hey, Lloyd, we got to do something." Within 3 days, we had a couch, a table, beds, pillows, blankets. We had everything.
These kids have the potential to be incredible. If we can help, then we're going to do everything we can to do that.
Joel, are you here? I invited Joel today. Please stand to be recognized. Thank you, Joel, for your hard work and your dedication. You see, the pandemic kept us from having a normal school year. But as you just saw, it didn't keep our community from coming together on behalf of our children for their education and well-being. Because together, as a community, we triumph. In fact, we also have the National Teacher of the Year here in the Clark County School District. Great things happening in the Clark County School District. Juliana Uribe, an immigrant from Colombia, wonders and supports all children, a special ed education teacher from Booker Elementary School. And she just wants, as she pushes for a joyful and just education using school gardens and anything in her classroom, she has brought a shining light to not only Clark County, Booker Elementary, the state of Nevada. Unfortunately, she's not here with us this morning, and she texted me yesterday and said, "Superintendent, I'm sorry, but I am have other duties as assigned," as she is across the nation, really sharing about her work here in the Clark County School District. You know, what this school district did for this community is close to a miracle. Think about the 5th largest district, 310,000 children, 366 schools, over a weekend, turned upside down to provide from face-to-face on Friday to distance education on Monday. When that decision was made, 42,000 employees became the backbone of Clark County and continue to be the backbone of Southern Nevada. As the video mentioned earlier, we have a lot of great things to highlight, but one of the biggest accomplishments is when kids needed devices, when kids needed technology, the Governor's Task Force, the Public Ed Foundation, the Elaine Wynn Family Foundation, R&R Partners, Cox Communication, many other partners came together and formed Connecting Kids for Nevada. And I'm telling you, all children who needed a Chromebook, a device, internet connectivity, had devices. Again, thank you to the work of all partners in this community. We also made sure that our children were served. That you saw in the video, 26 million meals from closure to the end of the school year. At food service employees, phenomenal work every day, even on holidays, we're there to serve our families. Other partners jumped in. 3 Square came to support our parents and our community, to make sure that our children were fed throughout this world pandemic. Our team is resilient. Our team, 42,000 employees, as I said, the backbone of this community. So let's never forget, always remember our health service professionals. Our nurses, when COVID testing started, our nurses supported the Southern Nevada Health District and this community through contact tracing, through vaccines. Still today, thank you to our health nurses, our health professionals, our first aid, our FASAs as well, when we needed to open our schools, to staff our sick room, our wellness rooms. Thank you to all our professionals. The hard work of the Clark County School District continued through this pandemic. As educators, we took on a community issue: the well-being of our kids. As we know, we've lost 24 precious lives through self-harm. But our health professionals, our social workers, our counselors, our psychologists worked day in and day out through the night to make sure that our children had somebody to connect to. We initiated Beacon Alert, Go Guardian. During spring break, winter break, our children had a lifeline through Connection Line. You came together and triumphed ahead for our families. This is the work that you did, always having somebody available for our kids. And I thank you immensely for your work and dedication for the 310,000 families. We have truly come together as a community, because together we triumph. We also this year opened with a mental health forum, one in English moderated by Puna Mathers. We had local, national leaders. We also had one in Spanish, moderated by the Councilwoman Olivia Diaz. And I'll tell you, I can't thank Opportunities 180, our parent leadership team who are here, Selena Lozada, Ana González, Laura Campos y Yesenia González. Muchas gracias por lo que ustedes han hecho para la comunidad de nosotros. Muchas gracias que están aquí. Thank you very much. See, because of each of you, we've gotten through the toughest year ever. But we just didn't get through it. We as a district decided we needed to grow. So let's take a look and think about some of the things that we took on this year. Let's reimagine our grading. Let's look at pilot schools. How do we put an incubation, a hub for schools to innovate and think differently when we come back? How do we imagine our support of our principals, increase college and career readiness, created a professional learning division team, reworked our leadership pipeline, provided and created a mentorship program? See, we didn't sit still. As we were thinking about this, we were building an airplane as we were flying it. Because last time I checked, In our grad school, we didn't have a book on dealing with a world pandemic as we're doing school. This is, again, the work of the 42,000 employees in this school district. So let me talk a little bit about grading reform. I'm so proud of the Board of Trustees for taking on grading in our schools. Now our children, all children, have an opportunity to demonstrate what they learn and what they know. Equitable across this school system for all kids, whether you are in Moapa or in Laughlin, Nevada, or the core of Las Vegas. All children will have the ability to demonstrate. And it is not about lowering the standards. Again, holding children accountable to demonstrate what they know. We have some principals that have already been doing this. So we're going to count on them and lean on their support to help us move through this work. And it's not going to happen. I want to make sure that everybody is clear. It's not happening next week when we start. The board was clear, and we said it's going to take some time for us to transition to get to where we need to be for all children. Providing professional development for our adults to help us through this journey. And it is going to be a journey for all of us to get to where we need to be. But the bottom line, we're going to give our children a great opportunity. So let's talk about the reimagining of our schools. 17 bold principles that said, sign me up. 17 principles applied to think about school a little different. But for us, we're going to learn with them. It's not about what we're doing to you, it's what we are learning together as a team. We're going to be doing blended learning, we're going to be doing face-to-face, and we're going to be doing and teaching in a projects-based learning instructional model. So our kids will have real-life world problems to solve. Innovation and creativity moving forward. Together, we've also placed a big emphasis on college and career readiness. We're excited on this project at Global Community High School. We're doubling the enrollment for our newcomers, where our kids will have an opportunity to learn the English language acquisition, but at the same time, also learn their core content academic courses. On the same campus, we're also building a high-tech high school on work readiness. Our kids will graduate from this high school ready for the workforce in high-paying jobs. Again, excited of this entire complex. We're also finalizing our details on a health clinic and daycare for our families. We are going to build a national model around our schools. Again, you as a team are 42,000 employees. I am so excited around our work on diversifying our leadership pipeline. This is why we've partnered with Howard University, a historically black college, around urban district leadership. My good friend, now he's our good friend, Dr. Sean Joseph, who is here today, a professor in Howard University, is going to help us diversify our pipeline. We're going to start in September with a cohort around leadership, district leadership. How are we going to build our future leaders in the Clark County School District? Sean, thank you for being here this morning. Thank you for what you're doing for our community and for our leaders as well. So thank you very much. Our building infrastructure is being reimagined as we speak, thanks to the governor and the state legislature for the rollover bonds for us to renovate 33 schools and building 13 new schools in the Clark County School District. See, because the board and I and the team believe that every child, no matter what zip code they live, should have access to a high-quality building with 21st century technology as well. Again, reimagining the work that we're doing in our schools. So this past year, our work never stopped. As a matter of fact, we intensified in our facilities. This school year, our students returned to state-of-the-art 29 new turf fields. We transformed from natural grass to turf for a potential cost savings of close to $1 million in water costs, but then also approximately 900 new jobs in Southern Nevada with our building program. Again, the Clark County School District continues to reimagine the work that we are doing. So, what do? How do we help you in your buildings? Central office staff, we all know, they hear it from me in cabinet. We all have jobs in this school district because there's children sitting in our classrooms. We were all teachers, administrators, assistant principals, principals. We understand the work of a building leader. We're here to help you and support you. And I'm so excited to introduce our teaching and learning team, led by our newly appointed Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Dustin Mansell, who was a teacher, a special ed facilitator, an assistant principal, a principal, and just recently Region 1 superintendent. Dr. Mansell, thank you for taking on the challenge with this team. We have 3 region superintendents, all homegrown. Melissa Gutierrez, who was recently principal at Peterson Elementary, Ron Triana, who was former principal at El Dorado High School, and Dr. Gianna Jaskowski, who was assistant superintendent for the Student Services Division. Our new school associate superintendents, very diverse and very talented team with proven results. Also leading our equity and diversity work, Dr. Sam Scavella, as assistant superintendent for equity and diversity education, Dr. Kayleen Ellis, who is leading our newly created position and division in professional learning, also formerly principal at Fertitta Middle School and NASA's secondary principal of the year last year. Her new role, again, investing in our people. Our new member of the team, Dr. Charlene Hillard, who is Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, that comes to us from Cleveland Metropolitan School District. Ignacio Ruiz, Assistant Superintendent for English Language Learners. He is committed and making sure that all English language learners across all 366 schools are participating in rigorous curriculum. Thank you, Ignacio. And of course, Dr. Monica Cortez, who is Assistant Superintendent over Health Services and Special Education, also a key member of the Southern Nevada Health District team, as well as she's been leading our efforts around COVID. Dr. John Anzalone, who oversees Education Services, Jennifer Bovis as well, Transportation, and Dr. John Anzalone as well, leading Education Services. Notice that I added Jennifer to the teaching and learning. Not structurally, Mike, not moving her for operations, but understand the key in transporting children in school on time. So Jennifer, thank you for leading our Transportation Services Department. See, last week we spent a great day with our new principals as they met their mentors. Our mentors went through a rigorous process and selected, for the first time ever, we have a mentoring program with principals that have demonstrated success in their role with proven results. Excited of the work that's happening in our schools. More than 40% of our principals today, more than 40% of our principals today have been in their schools for less than in the last 3 years. Excited of a diverse team. We have increased our diversity in leaders. 35% of our leaders identify as African American, Asian, Pacific Islanders, Native American, multiracial, or Latino. But let me be very clear. You're in your jobs and your seats because of what you know and what you demonstrate in the classroom and supporting your teachers, not on who you know. It is leadership and results. So thank you. Thank you for accepting the challenge. So let's give our principals a round of applause. So we have come together as a team. So think back, March 1, 2020. Students in our classrooms, no thoughts of masks, no thoughts of social distancing. Our children getting ready for prom, kindergarten graduation, 5th grade promotion, 8th grade promotions to high school. 2 weeks later, COVID shut the world down. But as we have reopened our schools, we are building and we have built a whole new system. And we have reimagined our schools for our students. COVID tore us down. Believe me, there were days for all of us that were tough. But you know what? They never broke us. COVID never broke us. Because as a team, we have come together and said, what are we going to do for our children? Before I end, I have one more video that shows the power of our work. Truly helps shape the lives and future of our schools.
The kind of real meeting you're about to see is something a lot of folks have been dreaming about. It's the 21st century equivalent of a pen pal.
I'm not hosting.
First graders Julia and Luna met online during virtual school, and they became fast friends. For 6 months, the girls chatted online.
Julia, look at my new shoes.
Then, as a birthday surprise for Julia, Luna surprised her in the local park. Tell me what that was like when you first saw Luna.
Oh, I was so excited. And then we ran and we hugged. Julia and me, we're running and we yelled. And we both yelled each other's names. Like, Luna! Julia!
Now the girls are back in school, and to say they are inseparable is an understatement. Tell me what friendship means to you.
Friendship means something personal and keeping secrets and good at hugging and always cheering you up. Bye!
And now they chat like never before. So what did you guys talk about during your online chats?
Well, we didn't really talk about nothing. We had an idea.
Showing there are no barriers to true friendship. Some boys and girls still aren't back in school and they're still studying online right now. Do you have any advice for them to make it a little bit easier?
Even though that you're still online, you can still have friends.
Yep, she said, and by the way, they had me cracking up for most of that interview.
Yep, Julia and Luna attend Ober Elementary. Thank you, Julia, for being here, and Luna. Let's give them a round of applause. See, as educators, this is why we get up in the morning, every single morning. Our kids are resilient, and because of them, we are too. So let me tell you, what I am so excited about is the work that we've done in this pandemic. We've implemented full-time distance education. We fed our kids. We were there and provided mental health support for our students. We never stopped. At the same time, we reformed our grading practices. We also created a new professional learning division. We improved our leadership pipeline. We provided mentors for our new principals. We've implemented a math curriculum for our teachers. We provided professional development for our English language learners. We, as a school district, have built the foundation that in the near future, I am telling you, in the near future, we will be a district that will really erase the effects of poverty that happens in our classrooms for our students, and the Clark County School District will be a model district for others to look at what we're doing across this country. Together, we triumph. Thank you very much.
You've been watching Breaking News from the Las Vegas Review-Journal, sponsored by Michael Gaughan's South Point Hotel, Casino, and Spa.